There are no finer two destinations to fly between than Boston, the cultural and financial centre of New England, founded by English Puritans, colonists back in the day, and the dynamic city of New York with its iconic skyscrapers, nightlife and capital of the world status. You've got to love America. Well, as you probably guessed, these are not the two destinations we'll be flying between in a flight time of just 6 minutes today. Our Boston and New York are set in the fenlands of England, but as you'll find out, both have more than just their names in common with their more famous twins across the pond. Our flight today starts at the little microlight grass strip of Boston, just a couple of miles to the west of the market town of Boston in Lincolnshire, for just a 9-mile flight to the small farm strip at the little hamlet of New York. It was from Boston that a group of Puritans, later known as the Pilgrim Fathers, were imprisoned. Once released, they set sail from Plymouth in the famous Mayflower to settle in America, where they named Boston, Massachusetts after their home in England. There's even a memorial dedicated to the Pilgrims just outside the town. Okay, back to the airfield. It has a usable single grass runway orientated 0927 at 600 metres or 1,950 feet long. There's a north-south runway at just over 200 metres or 700 feet long, which is not listed and it's totally unsuitable for us. The field is completely clear at the western end, but there's a 10-foot high hedge at the eastern end. So as we line up and depart the westerly runway at Boston, it's interesting to note the rugby field's immediately adjacent to the north side of the strip. Unusually, there's no fence to stop wayward balls or people accessing the live runway, especially considering that the quiet microlight engines operated from here can be difficult for people to hear, but I suppose the local residents are aware of it. We're quite heavy today, but I think we may have a slight tailwind as well, as we've eaten up a fair bit of the almost 2,000 foot runway. But once airborne, I commence a shallow right turn towards New York and climb to just 600 feet. Lincolnshire is really flat and pretty featureless, so looking out the window gives very little clues for navigation. However, we do have one great VFR navigational aid, and that is the River Witham. It's that river running away to our northwest. It's lovely and straight, and it runs around a mile to the west of New York. If we were going to use the strip's easterly runway, we could just follow it as it routes northwesterly. However, as the wind favours New York's runway 26, we'll need to head due north, keeping the river to our left. Flying low level like this means you need to be super aware of any obstacles like masts or chimneys that could be a hazard. Luckily, we checked the route in our pre-planning and there's nothing that could be an issue. It's all just really super flat. The farm strip at New York sits within RAF Coningsby's MATS or Military Aerodrome Traffic Zone, an area of airspace that starts at ground level to protect the airfield, and at 5 miles from New York we enter it. RAF Coningsby was opened just before World War II as an RAF bomber command station, and was home for a while to the famous 617 Squadron. Known as the Dam Busters, they famously flew a daring low-level mission from nearby RAF Scampton using modified Lancaster bombers and the special bouncing bombs developed by Barnes-Wallis in an attempt to destroy a number of hydroelectric dams along the Ruhr earlier in the war. Today, RAF Coningsby is one of 2 QRA or quick reaction stations in the UK. RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland is the other. Typhoon equipped and ready for almost instant action, they are the first defence against hostile UK airspace infringements and are one of the UK's most strategically important sites. All this means we had to request special access to their airspace before leaving the ground at Boston, where we have been given access but with strict instructions to stay below 500 feet when entering their ATZ or Aerodrome Traffic Zone, which is the controlled area immediately around Coningsby Airfield. We are told to maintain a listening watch on the approach frequency and that they would contact us if we needed us to get out of there quickly. We're getting close to our destination now. New York is a little farm strip situated within the small hamlet of New York in Lincolnshire with less than 150 inhabitants. It's certainly not as buzzy or glitzy as the one in the States, with just a small Methodist church and a village hall to compete with the cityscape of Manhattan, but it does have its own charm. This one really is a true farm strip with 2 cut grass runways orientated 0826 at 575 metres or 1880 feet, and a tricky shorter one at 400 metres or 1300 feet orientated 1735. This also serves as the taxiway to take you down to the parking area and the farmhouse. We keep outside the ATZ for as long as possible, then turn on to final for 2.6. The strip is really hard to see, and with the sun in our eyes we weave around trying to spot the runway. Eventually we see it through a gap in a hedge, although even at only half a mile away it's still tough to establish exactly where it is. Over the hedge and we touch down. It's a little bit bumpy but not too bad. We backtrack and head for the parking area where the owner and his dog have come out to meet us. Okay, I said New York had an American link, and not just because of the name, so here's why. Every now and again, RAF Coningsby plays host to the fighter jets of the US Air Force, and it's not unusual to hear American accents in the local pubs, and according to the farmer owner of the New York Strip, they sometimes pop over to have a flight and get New York in their logbooks. Not in F-15s, I hasten to add. After a look around the farm and a chat with the farmer, we taxi back to the runway and depart for our return flight to Boston. I hope you enjoyed this fun little trip. It's a great way to get 2 new unique airstrips in your logbook, and if your aircraft has the performance, I highly recommend doing the same yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Fly safe and Shortfield out.
I love this kind of flying. What's that? I love this kind of flying. Oh yeah.